guys, it's Julie, a designer at the Quilted Cow, and today's tutorial is on the Cici Satchel. Before we begin, I'd like to thank my sponsors, Husqvarna Viking sewing machines and Creative Grids rulers, mats, and rotary cutters. Let's begin. The Cici Satchel is the perfect bag for any of your needs. It's big enough to hold a large size laptop or small enough you can use it as a book bag. It does come in multiple sizes. You can find the kit in our subscription box or on our website at thequiltedcow.com or on our Facebook page on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Let's begin with the first step. As you are cutting out your material for this kit, it's very important to label all of your pieces. It makes it much easier to assemble your bag later on. We're going to begin with the first step, and that's the strap. So what you need to do is to take your two strap pieces and join them together. So in order to do that, you're going to put one piece face up, and you're going to take your second strap fabric and lay it at a 90-degree angle so we can do a diagonal seam and join these together. So I'm going to use my Creative Goods ruler, and I'm going to go from where the fabrics meet in both corners, and I'm just going to draw a line with my friction pen. Once you have your line drawn, let's put some pins in it to keep it in place while we sew. And let's step to our machine, and we're going to sew right on the line we just drew. Once you have your seam drawn, we are just going to pull our pins out, and I'm going to use my Creative Goods little ruler and my rotary cutter and just cut a 1/4 inch away from the seam we just sewed. I'm then going to turn my ruler and cut off these little points or the little dog ears on both sides where they meet. Next, you need to get your ironing surface ready, and we are going to press this seam open. Next, once you get to your ironing surface, we are going to press our seam open. So I always begin with just finger pressing, and then we'll go back in and make it official with our iron. It just helps keep everything nice and neat. Once you have your seam pressed open, we are going to fold our fabric in half, matching up the long raw edges, and press in the center so we can find the center crease. Once you have your entire strap pressed in half, we're going to open it back up and fold our raw edges to the center crease. And you can press at this stage, or you can refold and just press the whole strap at the same time. Once you have your entire strap pressed, it should look just like this, and it's time to step to your machine and sew. We're going to sew an 1/8 inch seam on both long edges all the way the length of the strap. Let's go sew. Once you have your strap assembled, it is time to trim off our salvages. I'm just going to stack my ends right on top of each other and just trim off right where my salvages are. Now we need to cut our tabs from the same strap fabric that we've just done. And we need 2 pieces, so it's perfect timing to just do it right now. I am going to measure 4 inches from the end of my straps, and I'm just going to trim this off. So now that we have our salvages trimmed, I'm just going to measure 4 inches from the end of my straps, and I'm just going to trim the 4-inch tab pieces right off the ends. Now that we have our tab pieces ready, we can go ahead and add our hardware. So all of your hardware is going to be these sliders that we use. And what we need to do is to just go up around one of the edges so that it's hanging from one side. Then we're going to tuck our raw edges under and stitch across to hold those in place. So just tuck them under 1/4 of an inch or so, and then step to your machine and baste it to hold. You're going to repeat that step for both of your tab pieces, and they should look just like this when you're finished. Nice tucked in edges, and then we can set these aside for a later step. While we still have our strap handy, we're going to go ahead and prep this piece as well. So this is going to come up. Our sliders have a slight curve, so you're going to come up from the bottom and then back down. So that way it's covering that center bar right there in the center. We're going to fold our raw edge under and we're going to secure it right back to our strap. And let's go put a seam in this to hold it in place. Our second step is to get our accent pocket ready. So what we're going to do is to take it and fold it in half, matching up our long edges, and we're going to press right where the fold is. Repeat the same step with your other two pockets and get the folds pressed, and then we're going to top stitch all three of our pocket pieces. Let's go sew. Now that you have all of your pockets top stitched, we are going to set our backing pocket aside. For this step, we'll be using our slip pocket and our accent pocket. So we are just going to line up our sides and our bottom edges, and we're going to pin or clip this in place. Be mindful of how you want to divide your pockets out so your pins will not be in your way. So I'm just going to mark a couple of lines where I want this to be. I'm going to mark one down the center from my slip pocket all the way to the bottom of my accent pocket. And this is where they will attach to my main fabric. Now that that line is in place, I need to decide how I want my accent pocket separated. I love good pin pockets in any book bag or note bag. So I am just going to draw a couple of little pin pocket lines just on the accent fabric. We'll leave one big pocket over here and we'll just divide this one in half. It really is however you want to do this. Now I'm just going to go and stitch on the accent lines, leaving this one for last. Now that you have all of your accents secured to your slip pocket, it's time to prep our main front and back for our bag. So you can use anything to secure your fabric. I am going to use this free fuse from Quilter Select. Just a little sprinkle goes a long way. You can use glue sticks or any other way that you would like to baste it. So I just sprinkled a little powder onto my foam, and I'm going to lay my main fabric right on top and press it in place. And you'll repeat this step for the main part of your bag as well. Now that it is nice and fused in place, we are going to stack our slip pockets right on top. Now your pocket fabric may be different. I liked this print so much that I duplicated it in this pattern. I absolutely love the way it just blends in. So now you have your accent pocket and your slip pocket and then your main front of your bag. I'm going to stitch on this line right here in the center so that I can attach these together. This is also where you could use optional Velcro if you choose to attach this piece to your main fabric, and then just sew it where you like. Now that I have my pockets attached to my main, I'm just going to press it and remove my friction pin marks. It's much easier to do while this fabric is still flat than it is once it's finished. Now that those lines are erased, I'm going to repeat the same step to attach my back pocket to my backing. Now let's do the back of our bag. So we're going to attach our back pocket to the back of our satchel. Just line up the raw edges along the bottom and the sides. You can attach Velcro here by just matching up where they belong, but this is where we can divide it out however we want with little pockets. So for this, I'm just going to draw a line down the center of it and stitch on that line. That way I have two nice big usable pockets for notepads, car keys, whatever you'd like. Let's go sew on that line. Now that we have the back of our bag ready, it's time to assemble our flap. For that, you'll need to grab your center strip from your accent fabric and two of your main flap sides. We are just going to sew this center accent strip right in the middle. So just line it up on the long edges, and we're going to place this right in the center of the two flap strips. Let's go sew. I have my first side completed, and I'm just going to press it before moving on to my second flap strip. Then you repeat this for the other side, stacking your other flap on the other side of your axe, and go sew. Once you have your second flap strip added on, your project should look like this. Next, it's time to attach the flap backing. So we are going to take our accent flap backing and lay it right sides together with the front of our flap. Make sure that you line up the edges. You can pin or clip it in place. And we are going to sew on both short ends and one long side, leaving the top open for turning. Let's go sew. Once you have your main and your accent backing sewn together. We're just going to clip our corners and turn it right sides out. This just helps your corners be a little more sharp and crisp, so your finished project should look like this. I'm going to press it so that my seams are right on the edges, and then top stitch around the entire flap. Now that I have my flap top stitched, I am going to trim the top edge of this even and run a nice basting stitch there just to hold it in place. Now that I have my top of my flap basted in place, it is time to start assembling our bag. So let's move this out of the way. For this step, you're going to need all of your exterior pieces. So your front, your back, your bottom, and your sides. We're going to start with the back fabric, the one with only one pocket. Now that we're ready to assemble, we are going to start with our side pieces on our exterior. What we need to do is to find the top of each piece, and we're going to measure down 1.5 inches from the raw edge and make a mark in the center of each piece. This is going to be where we place our tabs, so just a nice little line there so we know where we're sewing. You want to take your tab pieces with the curve side facing up and just center them right on each side. I'm going to stitch right across the line that we basted earlier just to hold it in place. Now that you have your tabs secured to your side, it's time to assemble our bag. So the piece we're going to start with is our backing piece. That's the one that only has one pocket on it. We're going to take our side pieces and pin them right to the ends on both sides. And we are going to stitch along both edges on the left and the right, stopping 1/2 inch before we reach the bottom of our bag. Let's go sew. Now that you have your side pieces attached, your project should look just like this. The next part is we're going to attach our bottom piece. So I'm going to take my long bottom piece and line it up right at the bottom, and I'm going to stitch all the way across, starting and stopping 1/2 inch from each end. Now your bag should look like this. We need to grab our front piece, the part that has the 2 pockets, and it's going to get sewn right here along the other edge of our bottom fabric. So let's put some pins or clips to hold it in place, and we're just going to stitch right along this bottom seam. Once again, we'll be stopping and starting 1/2 inch from each of the ends. At this stage, your bag should look like this. The next step is to fold our main and attach it to our side pieces, right on the long raw edge. You want to hold this in place with pins or clips, and you're going to repeat this step for both sides. Now that you have your sides stitched together, we are going to stitch the bottom of our sides. So I just put my fingers in and push my main front and back out so they form a nice little point. This is where you're going to sew up all of those 1/2 inch seams that you left at the end of each of your strips. So you're going to start stitching all the way across and repeat that for both edges of your bag. Once you have your ends completely stitched in place, it's time to turn the exterior of your bag right side out. Once your bag's right side out, we are going to set this aside and repeat all the same steps for our lining fabric. This time we'll be leaving a 7 inch to 8 inch opening along the bottom edge so that we can turn our bag right side out once it's finished. Once you have your lining finished and you have your opening along the bottom edge, we are going to put our main fabric inside of our lining, being sure to line up the corners on all of our seams. Be sure to tuck your hardware out of the way so it doesn't get caught when we're sewing. Once you have your main inside of your lining, it's time to add your fabric for your flap. So you want to take it and place it on the back, which is the side that only has one pocket, and we're going to place them right sides together. So there's my right side, and I'm going to place it so it's facing down, and I'm going to tuck this inside as well. Once you have your flap inside, you want to make sure all of your raw edges are lined up all along the top, and I'm just going to place some clips in. You can use pins if you'd like. just to hold everything nice and even together. Now that I have my bag nice and secure and all of my raw edges are even, it's time to step to your machine and sew. If you have an accessory bin or a plate that you can take off of your machine, it is perfect to go under your machine while you stitch. If not, you can open your bag and put it around your machine like this and sew along the bottom edge. Once you have the top of your bag completely stitched, it is time to turn your bag right side out. This is where a nice big opening in your lining is really going to come in handy. If you're using the foam, it gets a little thick. So we're just going to work it gently through the hole that we left in our lining fabric until we can get it turned right side out. Once you have your bag turned right side out, we are going to stitch our opening closed. You may want to double check that all of your seams have been caught before you seal this up. So I'm just going to lay my lining right here on my pressing surface and tuck my raw edges inside and press it so it's nice and flat. Now let's go sew our turn opening closed. Now that we have our lining sewn shut, we are just going to push it inside the main part of our bag. We need to work our seams all along the edge so that we can get a good crisp top stitch in. So let's pull our lining down and press it in place. To do the back part of the bag, it's easier if you lift your flap up to get that nice solid seam. Now that we have our edges nice and pressed, let's step to our machine and put a top stitch an 1/8 or a 1/4 inch right from your top edge. Now that you have top stitched your bag, the final step is to add the strap. So you want to find the raw end of your strap and make sure your strap is not twisted. You want to take it so your buckle is curving up so it will be on the outside of your bag. And we are going to go under one side, up through our strap, back down our strap, so your curve should be on the outside and it should be looped around one side of your satchel. Now to hook it to the other side, we're going to go from the outside into the strap or into the slider. Now this is a perfect step to make sure everything is nice and even and nothing is twisted. We're going to fold the raw edge of our strap under, and we are going to then stitch it back to our strap, and that's our final step. Once again, this is how you make the Cici satchel. You can find this kit on our website at thequiltedcow.com or on our Facebook Lives on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Please like and subscribe for more tutorials, and thanks for watching.
Okay, you wicked cool quilters, good job. You made it to the end. We would like to thank our sponsors, Husqvarna Viking Sewing Machines, Creative Grids, rulers, rotary cutters, and mats, and Wilmington Prints for the beautiful fabrics. Thanks for watching.